Do you have a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con that is drifting badly? Well, today we're going to walk through the steps needed to replace a faulty joystick and a few other issues in a Switch Joy-Con. Okay, on the bench today we have a Joy-Con from a Nintendo Switch. It came to us in parts, unfortunately, and while I think electronics is an absolute great hobby, if you want to experiment or you think something may be beyond your capabilities, you really should experiment on a dead board, because sometimes working on things that you want to save when you are unsure can cause larger problems. But anyway, let's get on with this. This came to us because the owner said the Joy-Con was drifting, which is a common issue for the Nintendo Switch. But he said when he got it apart, he found something else broken. He didn't say what, but he said he found something else broken. So I'm assuming this is going to be our new Joy-Con or joystick for the Joy-Con. And here's a bag with a shoulder. And yes, I can see there's part of a switch in here, a tactile switch that looks like it's broken off. I do have the ribbon cables if that is our problem. I have several of them here. But let's go ahead and get into this and see where we're at. You know what? This may be a motherboard issue, but we'll see what we can do. The owner of this is interested in getting it back, but let's get it apart, see what we're up against. Okay, it looks like our ribbons are already apart. Get our battery out of here. The battery's disconnected. And it looks like the tray is already disconnected. Our button in there is fine, and it looks like the ribbon is in good shape. So, yeah, this is what I feared. The switch, the physical tactile switch has been ripped from the motherboard. And let's see, the little plate is missing. Okay, so I have another motherboard for this particular model, or this side. This is a right one. One I've already repaired, incidentally, with the same issue. So what we're going to wind up doing is just replacing this motherboard. The traces on where the switch are look like they've been tore off, and to repair them may or may not be realistic. So let's start with just removing this one. Our patch antenna, it comes off with just a little pull. Try to pull it, when you take these apart yourself, try to lift it straight off. The motor wires for our feedback, they're kind of hard to get. You don't want to pull them by the wire. So what I suggest doing is you can grip that plug a little better once the board's out. So let's go ahead and get these screws out. Okay, it's just those two. You've got two more ribbon cables down here. All you gotta do is lift the bails with a small instrument, and you can get into them pretty easy. Oh, this one's gonna be stubborn. Okay, that's fine. We can get into it. Just need a little bit more close up. So make sure the bail's up. And there's two little tabs, one on either side. And if you get something pointy behind them, you can usually slide it out. Like that. Okay. And this one doesn't look to be in great shape, but we'll double check it. Now that the board is up, we can grip this plug with our fingernails. A little wiggle should come out. There we go. Okay. We'll do what we can to salvage that board. So I set this one over here, and this one had the same problem, but fortunately the actual contacts here were not ripped. This individual, the one this came out of, was a little bit aggressive and broke the solder joints on the shoulders. So the switch was bent back, but not so far that it ripped our traces. So this one I removed the switch, cleaned everything up, and we soldered it back down. So sometimes it's good to have parts in the shop. Okay, so this is going to go together more or less just the opposite way. So these two ribbons are going to have to go back in. They're not the easiest things to get because it's a very close working environment. There we go. Okay. Make sure our buttons and our pads are down. They will push up if you've had it sitting on the table. Okay. And we can replace the two screws from this end of the board. Double check which holes we're going in. Okay. Okay. So our board's back in, the two ribbons back here are in, and then we can put our feedback motor back in. Just like that. Okay. Make sure all of our bails are up. Okay. Next will be a shoulder button. We'll put in our joystick. If you look on the board, most of the time when you have a ribbon cable going into a small plug, there's going to be a mark of some sort, whether that's a mark on the ribbon itself, and it'll be an indication of how far it's into the plug, or sometimes like this one, you can see there's a small mark on the board, and it shows where the back of our backing plate should be. So you know when it's the whole way in. Okay, so these long black ones are going to be our outer case. These gold ones, let's see, we got 3 here. So we're going to use these are all the same size. Okay. Well, we'll take care of that in a minute. Okay. Joycon or joystick is the whole way in. Now we can put the shoulder button back in. There you go. Okay, now that we have our ribbon in for our trigger button, and we have our shoulder button back in place, we can get the 2 ribbons for our LEDs and our slide. Well, sometimes it's just easier to do them by hand. We'll do the back one first. Sometimes you can just walk them back and forth. Such as that. There we go. Okay. Now that those are in, you can roll the battery over, battery tray, set it into place, and then we will get our screws to hold it down. And our last 2 things are the battery and our patch antenna. This one just has a little circle. You just line it up. Give it a little push. It'll snap into place. Then the wire routes there, and the little patch sits in that notch. And our battery, the opening's here, the wire goes that way. Sits like that. And this connector pushes straight down into the board. So all you gotta do is get it lined up, reach in, and push it down. Okay, so I think this one still had a bit of a charge. No. Okay. Before I put the back screws in, I'm going to set this on the charger, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. We gave this just a few minutes on the charger, just to see if it would come back to life, and of course the lights came back on. So we're going to go ahead and give it a little test before I was wondering if my batteries were charged. Before we put the screws back in it, just in case we need to do anything else. So we're going to take that Joy-Con off and kind of hold it together and slide it down, and we should see the click and the bump on the side, which we did. So, hey, look at that. Looks like everything's working just fine. So, okay. So, for now, everything looks good, and we should just go ahead and put the screws back in the back. And we'll turn off the switch. Put her in sleep mode. Okay, so let's get the screws back in it. Let's see. Okay, these ones are a little bit smaller than some of the other tri-wings, like in a Game Boy. So you need a slightly finer tip. I believe it's a 1.5. This particular screwdriver is marked as a 50. The standard one I use for Game Boys and 3DSs is a 2, a 2.0. There we go. All right, she's all back together, and we'll have another happy customer. Thanks for joining us on the channel. If this video was helpful or informative or at least entertaining, please subscribe. It helps support the channel. Thanks.